Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news. Yes, I said transfer news and news this Friday morning. Surely you're feeling good. It's Manchester United back in football action tomorrow and it's a Friday. We can't wait for that. But lots to get into on the show this morning. In fact, Daniel straight away says the new regime haven't learned anything if they go after Rabiot. For the price, he's not worth it and it's a backward move. Well, we will be talking about that as concerns are raised around the midfield. According to Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic, Man United have concerns about their midfield. Could those concerns be answered by signing Adrien Rabiot today, tomorrow, or at some point in the next few days? Well, numerous sources are saying that Manchester United have held transfer talks with Rabiot and his agent, who is his mother, over the last few days, with him lowering his demands. There is talk of Arsenal. There is talk of Liverpool. There is going to be a conclusion to this Rabiot story, and as much as I find it incredible, he could end up at Man United. Why not? He's going to end up somewhere, isn't he? He's probably going to end up in the Premier League as well. We'll talk about that. Also, another report coming out about Omar Barada being the driving factor behind why Manchester United didn't sign Jared Branthwaite. We'll be discussing that as well. And also, is it time to leave Ten Hag alone? And I'm not necessarily talking about you. I, this morning, just did a quick check before I went live. Players dislike Ten Hag. Sir Alex wouldn't have said this. This is Ten Hag's last game. Ten Hag's about 4 or 5 headlines across pretty big UK outlets in the UK, funnily enough. Is it time they just shut up and were ignored? Well, I would love it, but it's just constantly talking about our club, constantly talking about our manager. There's a case starting on Monday about 115 allegations of cheating. I'm just wondering, not talking about you, not talking about Ten Hag, by the way. I'm just wondering whether the media from Monday might actually start talking about something that's pivotal in the world of football and the integrity of football instead of constantly writing about our football club and our manager. Do you think it's going to change? For some reason, I suspect they will still keep writing about our club over something that, if proven guilty, basically destroys the integrity of the Premier League over the last 10 years. And if found not guilty, potentially does as well. Let's wait and see. Of course they won't change. Exactly. They'll carry on doing what they're doing, Brian. Tommy, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much for tuning in. Right, let's hit the big story this morning. Bit of a shock story, I've got to say. I feel that certainly... I wasn't expecting to be reading this morning, but in relation to Adrien Rabiot, Manchester United have held discussions with Rabiot in recent days. United have a better relationship with the player's agent because the salary demands have decreased. This is coming in from French sources, which we have actually had verified for us this morning. There is a really strong belief that Man United have held talks with Rabiot over the last few days. Also, Arsenal have been mentioned as well. Look, we've got a bit of a live poll running on here as well. It's a for me. It's a There is a poll live if you're watching live. Would you do you want Rabiot? 66% say yes, 34% say no. So there is a feeling, certainly in the people who are watching this show this morning, that you would do this deal. Look, I said this to you a couple of days ago, didn't I? We react to a lot. You know, it's 10 years now, and we've reacted to a lot of transfer stories over that period. I don't really recall one as weird as this, in the sense that what I'm about to say, we've never really had to discuss a deal like this before. He is a free transfer, so the transfer window's closed. You can't loan anybody. You can't do that. But a free agent can be signed at any time. So he is a guy that was playing centre midfield for France 2 months ago in the Euros, 29, not 39, has a value as a footballer. Like, he is a decent footballer. I would never not say that. And there is an opportunity there to bring him in to Arsenal or Liverpool or Newcastle or Manchester United. And I look at it from that point of view. If I was Liverpool or Newcastle or Arsenal and Rabiot's there, am I saying no way? No, I'm not. I mean, I actually think at Newcastle he would be a decent player for them. I think at Liverpool, I don't know about Liverpool whether they need him or not, but if Slot thinks he does and Liverpool want him, we would all be going, oh, that's interesting. And the same at Arsenal. So if he ends up at Arsenal or Liverpool, we would look at that because they are better run clubs than us and go, oh, that's an interesting deal. It's interesting how Liverpool's recruitment team and Slot want him, or it's interesting how Edu and Arteta want him. So I think that's the danger here, is that I agree, I'll give you my personal opinion on it in a moment, but I agree with a lot of we shouldn't be doing this, what Daniel said, etc. But if he does end up signing for Liverpool or Arsenal, straight away I'd go, I hate to say it, but I actually think their recruitment's pretty decent over the last few years. And if they think that's worth it, maybe we should have done. Maybe we should have tried it. I mean, you don't want to be the only horse in the ring for Rabiot, is what I'm saying. I mean, if nobody's gone anywhere near him because of his wages and, you know, the baggage, etc., then you don't want to do it. But I am sort of conflicted a little bit in that sense. Also, I can't sit here and say that this is complete and utter nonsense, because we've had stories in the past where you know it's nonsense, and you've had stories in the past where we know it's true. I think with this, it's so easy to do. I mean, Azim says Rabiot's toxic like Sancho. I mean, I don't know what the similarity between Sancho and Rabiot is. But with this, like, it literally could be, yeah, we'll pay the wages. Can he come over tomorrow? And he signs tomorrow. Like, there's literally no other club involved. You are literally talking to the free agent that is outside the parameters of a normal transfer window. It's just so quick and simple to do. And then the concerns hit of like, well, you know, why is he not signed for anybody yet? We are into the middle of September. He has willingly not been part of the French national team because he didn't find a club to have a pre-season. And if he did come into Manchester United, he ain't going to be ready to play until after the next international break, because there's no way Rabiot, if you signed him today, would be ready to play against Crystal Palace next week, let alone Barnsley. He's going to need a whole pre-season. So there are, and then the thing I would say as well is, if you buy Rabiot, because you are buying him, you're giving him a contract. If you bring Rabiot in and he comes to Manchester United, what are you then doing in relation to Ederson or any other midfielder that you might be looking at long term? Because he is a short-term fix. He's 29. And you are closing the door off to that longer-term signing that could be an Ederson, a Wharton, or someone like that. So it's one of those. It's one of those. And what I would say is, I have to give an answer, of course, but what I would say is I hope we can get some resolution on this quickly, because whether he goes to another club or he's coming to Man United, I think this just needs to get done, because it's just a weird story that's just there and you want to just get on with your own business. I mean, imagine if we did bring him in. One, the wages have got to come right down, you know, that we can't be giving him even 200 grand a week. I think that's a joke. Where does he fit into a starting Man United side? We've just bought Ugarte, who has to start. Mainu is very important to the starting lineup. Bruno as well. What are we going to do with Casemiro on 350k a week? Would he be behind Rabiot? What about Collier? So there is a lot of questions to it. On the other hand, if somebody said to me, but your midfield roster will be Ugarte, Rabiot, Casemiro, Collier, Mainu, Bruno, Mount, I'd go, bloody hell, that's not bad. That is not bad. And you know, Marvin says he's a French Scott McTominay. One thing I will always say about Rabiot is, as a footballer, I've always thought he was decent. You know, there's a lot of baggage. You know, what is he doing being a free agent in the middle of September? Is it just incredible to me? But as a footballer, I think he's a decent one. Serge says, midfield is weak. Rabiot makes it stronger. Do it. Look, I don't know why people, 66% of you, are saying you would do it. But I think one way of looking at it as well is our midfield better between now and the end of the season with Rabiot in it or out of it? And I think you have to logically take emotion out of the way and go, we have a better midfield roster with Rabiot in it. I mean, ideally, I wanted Amrabat potentially to come back, and Eriksen. I forgot about Eriksen. Didn't even fucking use Eriksen, did I? It didn't even list Eriksen in that 7, and that's my point. I don't even consider Eriksen an option. So without Eriksen and Rabiot, you've got Casemiro, Ugarte, Collier, Mainu, Bruno, Mount. 6 players. Mount's injured. Collier's a kid. 4. So yeah, I think that I can see why some people would say bring him in. We should build for the future, not do a quick fix, says Damage. But then this is what Laurie Whitwell had to say. Let me just read this out for you from The Athletic. And this is what I mean. We were talking about this before, weren't we? Some people are saying we should be building for the future, which I completely agree. But there is no tomorrow. I was saying this yesterday on Eric Ten Hag's press conference. There is no tomorrow. We've got to get results today. So as much as I agree, Rabiot would be very short term, there is a massive amount of pressure on Man United and Ten Hag at the moment to deliver now. And if that pressure is forcing Man United to deliver now, you have to bring a Rabiot in because you need to deliver now. The fan base is not united on transitional long term. There are people in this fan base who are screaming and shouting, sack him now, get rid of him now, which would destabilise everything. When you say sack Ten Hag, that's fine, but you're also massively weakening Ineos and their plan as well. So maybe they will bring Rabiot in as we need to get results now. But this is what Laurie Whitwell has had to say. There are concerns within the club about the midfield, and questions have been raised internally as to whether there is a problem with the players or with the instructions given to them, given that similar issues arose last season. Some people within the club believe a solution should be sought on the training ground. Look, more sources, more leaks, etc., etc. But I don't really have a huge issue with that article, in the sense that it's bloody obvious. It's absolutely obvious that Manchester United have got issues with what's going on in the midfield at the moment. I think that I saw the midfield last year. I saw the midfield this season. The massive amount of space in there is problematic. Do I think it's a training ground issue? I think we have to set up in a tactical sense to try and play the vision that we want to play. The problem is I think it's the players. I don't think we've got the players to do it. I don't think Scott McTominay could do it. I don't think Christian Eriksen can do it. And I don't think Casemiro can do it. I think until we see the likes of Ugarte playing for Manchester United, we might not see what this midfield is capable of. Until we start pushing up that defensive line, I don't think we'll be seeing what this midfield is capable of. But the midfield is a massive problem for Manchester United, and yet here we are again talking about potentially bringing in another midfielder, and that's the question for me. Is this something that we can solve with the players that we've got, or should we be looking to bring in somebody right now? And I think that's interesting. I mean, look, I don't know which way this is going to pan out. I really don't. I think that there's a large part of me that thinks that there won't be anything in this anyway, but I guess we'll have to just wait and see. Is Rabiot better than Mainu? If not, don't get him, says Liam. That's a very simplistic approach, with all due respect, Liam. Are we just not going to buy a player because they're not better than a player that we have? It's about, as we know, the sheer volume of football is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Next week, they've got Champions League games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we're playing in the Carabao Cup. The week after, it's Europa League Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's like there's just so much football that they're even splitting the opening week of the of the tournaments because they're so big now. There's just so many games coming along, and you can't expect someone like Kobe Mainu to play every week. So if Kobe Mainu's not fit and you drop, well, you can't put Mainu in there. You can't put Mount in there at the moment, can you? So you put Eriksen in there. It's a massive drop-off. So in that sense, I'd have to disagree with you, Liam, because even if Mainu is better than Rabiot, if Mainu gets injured or Mainu needs a rest, it would be quite nice to have somebody like a Rabiot or an Amrabat or someone like that this season. Longer term, I absolutely want to see Manchester United bringing in, a longer term option. That's my stance on it. But in the short term, I do and have said a few times that I think this midfield is a little bit, shall we say, a little bit weak. I'm just trying to find this quote about the midfield for you. So yeah, let's wait and see what's happened. Yeah, I just wanted to get a little bit more depth around what Laurie Whitwell was saying. So, United have experienced mixed results of their own this season, beating Fulham in the opening batch but losing to Brighton, etc., with fresh public discussion around the manager. People familiar with the situation say there was some concern about the gaps in the midfield against Liverpool. Questions were raised internally about whether this is a problem with the players or the instructions. Given similar issues occurred last season, there are people at the club who feel the roots are systemic and that a remedy should be sought on the training pitches at United's Carrington base. Yeah, I mean, look, it's look, if we're talking about that Liverpool game, I think it was so centric to Casemiro and you're 2-0 down that we also know that any tactical setup sort of disappeared the minute we went 2-0 down anyway, because the team's heads just dropped completely. So, yeah, I think Casemiro was such a problem in that game. It'll be very interesting to see how the midfield does tomorrow. And obviously a huge part of that is going to be whether Manchester United actually start Ugarte, which for me is going to be the biggest thing for us. And remember, we've got people like Kone coming into the club as well, long term as well. So it's not like we're not bringing players in for the long term. I don't know. I just think it's a really interesting situation with Rabiot. And as I said, one that needs to get resolved very, very quickly. Decor says Rabiot's big and good in the air as well. Look, honestly, if United sign Rabiot, are you going to throw your toys out the pram? I won't. I'll go, okay, interesting. Another player in an area of the pitch where we're a little bit weak. We know we've got a lot of centre-backs. We've now got a lot of midfielders. We've got 2 strikers. We've got a lot of wingers. We know we're weak at left-back. I mean, yeah. Gaz says, don't you think Rabiot feels a bit like a Glazer signing? Well, it can't be a Glazer signing anymore. It wouldn't get through. Even if Joel Glazer came in with a big, PowerPoint presentation of why we should sign Rabiot, it's still got to get signed off by Ten Hag, Ashworth, Barada, Blanc, Wilcox. It's just, you're never going to get a Glazer signing anymore. I know what you mean, but you're never going to get that anymore. We need good options and alternatives in the midfield, says Richard. United need stability. I think the risk of him being upset sitting on the bench is too big, and I'd wait for Ederson in January, says Ian. I would certainly prefer that, but it's whether United need a short-term fix, don't they? Should be focusing on signing high-impactful subs, says the Duke. Midfield is weak. Rabiot makes it stronger, says Serge. Wages are irrelevant. Mainu's our only number 8 and he's exhausted. Getting Rabiot should be a no-brainer so Kobe doesn't burn out and become sidelined. I think that's an interesting point from Acid23 as well. Ugarte is a holding midfielder. Casemiro is a holding midfielder. Collier is a kid coming through. Mainu is an 8. Mount is injured. Bruno is a 10. We don't actually have a creative box-to-box player who can play in the Premier League week in, week out. There is hope for Collier, but he's not ready. Eriksen is done. I think we all established that. He hasn't got the legs to do that role. And I never felt that Eriksen was an 8 anyway. I think he's a 10. Mount, as we know, problem. So if you bring Rabiot in, you have got a player that actually likes and enjoys playing as an 8. He can play 6, but he can play as an 8 as well. So the big thing with Rabiot would be, is he happy to sit on the bench? And how do you satisfy Casemiro, Ugarte, Mainu, Bruno, Rabiot? It's a lot of players, but we've got a lot of games. There's better ways to spend 200k a week, says the Duke. Our rebuild begins properly when all the old contracts end, so Rabiot for 2 years makes logical sense. Rabiot allows us to rest Ugarte or Mainu, says Keel. Look, if we do it, I'll get behind it. Do I think we'll do it? No. He's a good player, but I would say no. Why now? I would rather give Toby more opportunity to develop, says Mohamed. But what I will say is, if he ends up going to Liverpool or Arsenal and does well, we'll all sit here and go, we should have done that deal. And I'll acknowledge that as well. If he goes to Liverpool and Arsenal, who we respect their transfer activity generally over the last few years, if he goes to one of those clubs and he does well, we'll be sat there going, we should have done it. And we'll all have to own that. So, yeah, I haven't answered the question. Would I do this deal? You know what? I'm not going to sit on the fence. If right here, right now, do I do this deal? if his wages are around 160k a week, I'll do it. Because it's short term, it gives us another midfielder, it gives us more competition. I'm really worried about the midfield. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. But you're asking me, do I want another midfielder at a time where if I say no, I don't have one? So I probably would do it. I probably would do it. A big difference between Rabiot and... Because, you know, normally I'd say I wouldn't get Rabiot. I would go and do this instead. I wouldn't get Rabiot. I would go and do that instead. But if it's genuinely a possibility, and he could go to Liverpool or Arsenal as well, and it's the opportunity to have a midfielder or not, I'm going to choose to take it. Of course I am. That's the scenario, isn't it? I mean, it's not the ideal deal. But over nothing or that, of course I would, because there is a risk. But, you know, what's that saying I said to you a few weeks ago? The bigger risk is doing nothing. It's true, isn't it? You know, there is a risk attached to Rabiot, but the bigger risk is doing nothing, because nothing is nothing. A big difference between Rabiot and most free agents is he's actually good, says Martin. It's a very unique situation, definitely. Rabiot benches Mainu if he comes in, says Trey. Well, that might not be a bad thing. I mean, Mainu's 19. We want him to have competition for places, but we also want him to have a bit of rest. If we can get Rabiot on a 2-year option for third, I'd take him. He would improve our midfield. He has to lower his wage demands, says B. Gino. What's the most you think we would pay Rabiot a week, says Alexander? I think about 160k a week is the max I would go to, really. The new and Daniel obviously said at the start of the show, the new regime haven't learnt anything if they go after Rabiot. So there we go. We'll see what happens. He wants an 11 million signing on fee as well, says Chris. Yeah, and I think that is well worth a mention. The signing on fee, I just don't see United having 11 million to do it. That's probably going to be the problem. But look, obviously, I think that we don't necessarily know the inner workings of Manchester United. Davin says, imagine a midfielder of Ugarte, Rabiot and Bruno with Mount, Casemiro and Collier as backup, instant level up. Yeah, Davin, you've just forgot. I just saw someone in the chat say, bro, just forgot Mainu. You did forget Mainu. Thank you for that. YG says, reports are that 115 has become 130 charges. I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't know whether that's true. But look, what I will say about that is, as I said, waking up this morning, having a look at some of the stories out there. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, it's nothing new. It's nothing new, but it's just incredible how every single day, every outlet that's got nothing to do with Man United, they're just a football outlet, write so much about Man United. I really do think sometimes I expect to click on one of these websites or whatever, and it says, Ten Hag turns up to Carrington in dirty car. Why has he not washed his car? Oh, it's a sign he's going to get the sack because he can't even be bothered to wash his car. It's constant, and they keep pulling out these, Emmanuel Petit, the long-haired French ex-Arsenal player. Oh, Bruno gets on my nerves. I was just like, what the fuck? I know that's got nothing to do with Ten Hag, but I'm like, what the fuck's that? What? Have you woke up from a coma? It took you long to get your hair out your eyes? What? Bruno's, and I couldn't even be bothered to read it because I knew it would be, he's petulant, he moans. It's like, it's been going on for bloody 2 years now. Oh, slow sports news. Let's talk about Bruno's petulance getting on the nerves of an ex-player. That's going to do really well. And it's just so fucking boring. And it's always derailment. It's never positive. It's always a negative story about what's going on at Man United to try and derail this football club. And who the bloody hell is Emmanuel Petit? Couldn't give a shit. You played for Arsenal in the late 90s. You've got nothing to do with Man United. Jog on with your agenda. And look, Bruno can be petulant, but why am I even talking about it now? It's irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with anything at all other than let's say something negative about Man United. And on Monday, the case that's taken 6 years actually starts. Manchester City, 115 charges, starts on Monday. Will we get 4 or 5 big stories a day for the next 3 months while that case is being run about what could happen, what they've done, you know, what's going on? Pep could, you know, do we get stories on a daily basis about if Man City are found guilty, they'll end up playing with Preston's back four as John Stones and co go and play for Reading. You know, they're not even interested. They're not bothered about it at all. This case could go either way, but this case, if they're found guilty, the very fabric of football in this country is destroyed. We would quite rightly sit there and say we should have 2 titles. Arsenal would sit there and say we should have 2 titles. Liverpool would sit there and say we should have 2 titles. Like, this is massive. But nah. Let's talk about, you know, Marcus Rashford pulling into Carrington with a moody face. You know, it's, you know, maybe he's just stubbed his toe and changing gear. It's just like, I find it incredible. I find it really incredible because I've always known what it is. But at a time, you know when you just, I want Man United to play. I want us to play. I want us to win. But you know when you look outside and you're just like, it's just constant. And it must be very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to deal with when you're trying to rebuild something new. And the external factor is just constantly writing shit after shit after shit. You know, let's have another story about Anthony, who doesn't even play for Man United at the moment. Signing Rabiot makes a lot of sense, says Olu. Mount is hardly available and Eriksen doesn't have the legs for the Premier League. Rabiot brings leadership experience and some quality. Look, I'm sure we'll see Christian play over the next couple of weeks with the Europa League and Carabao Cup games. But honestly, I don't even count Eriksen as an option now, because even if he plays against Barnsley and he does okay, what is there in that? You know, he literally is gone next summer. His contract's up. We're not going to give him a new contract. So for me, Eriksen offers absolutely nothing in the vision of Man United over the next season. Really, we've had this situation before where people are running down their contracts, and it's hard. You know, when you see them in the starting lineup, it's hard to really compute what the point is, you know, because it's like, even if they have a really good game, you're like, we can't give them a new contract anyway. So I sort of agree with what you say. If you bring Rabiot in for a couple of years, at least it's short term, but there is some long term to it. These ex-players mistake Bruno's passion for moaning. He's our captain and will do anything for the club, says Martin. I would be more worried if we didn't have the new football structure. I can't imagine them doing a deal that doesn't benefit the team right now, says John. Yeah. And that's what I mean. I trust them on what they do. Tom says, why did you stop doing members exclusive videos? Thank you very much, Tom, for that. Good point. And I haven't done the Onana video either. It's a bit like the Snyder Cut, for those in the know. When is this Onana video going to land? A lot of people have said that, well, it's going to go on the members section. No, it's not. You know, we tend to use the member section for like the live shows and stuff like that. We just the live shows just haven't materialised the way I wanted to this year. So that's one answer there. With regards to the Onana video, which I've mentioned now, so I've got to give an answer on that. It will be coming out. It's not. Somebody in the comments yesterday saying he's been told not to put it out. It will come out and it will be quite damning, but it's not. There's no other reason it's not come out other than. I think the Ronaldo interview forced us into doing a video we weren't going to do. So, yeah, it will be coming out. Been hearing City will get a 60-point cut. Is that true, says Sanel? I don't know. If his wage comes down to 140k, it's a no-brainer. We're competing in the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, the Europa League. We need rotation, says Bjorn. Yeah, but it's that signing-on fee that might be problematic as well. Apart from Bruno, Rabiot is better than all we've got in the midfield. Therefore, he will be a better addition in our squad, says Cyril. I think a lot of people don't actually give Rabiot the credit with regards to how good a player he actually is. I do agree with you on that. I think a lot of people just don't actually appreciate that he's a good player. And as I said, if he ends up with... if he ends up going to Arsenal or Liverpool, I guarantee we'll be sat there going, why didn't we do this deal? Why didn't we do this deal? So in this situation right here, right now, let's not be too negative about Manchester United potentially doing this deal, because there is a scenario where we don't do the deal, it goes to Arsenal or Liverpool, and we're all sat there going, we should have done the deal. We should have done the deal. So let's wait and see. Anything on Ugarte, Mark? Yes. There was a funny... I got sent something last night, actually, where I think the Manchester Evening News had said, is there a hint that Ugarte is not going to play because he wasn't pictured in training? And then I scrolled up, and then they had a picture of him in training saying Ugarte is available. So I think there'd been a bit of a crossover there. There are pictures of Ugarte in training, I think this is just going to come back. This is going to come down to the laptop, isn't it? This is going to come down to the manager. I mean, is he going to do what some of you think he's going to do, where he goes, I'm not picking him, he's got to work his way into the team? Or is he going to do what he has done with the likes of Martinez and Anthony, where he throws them in straight away? I'm hoping he's going to throw him in straight away, because we need energy, we need freshness. We've just had a bad start to the season. We're away from home. We need some grit. We need some fire. We need some passion. We need some energy. And I think Ugarte instantly delivers that from minute one on Saturday. On the other hand, you can just see him going, he's not quite ready. I sort of agree. I sort of agree with the stance that if he goes straight into the team, then this is Ten Hag's big signing. If he sits him on the bench, then I think that, you could start arguing, well, is it an Ineos signing? Is it an Ashworth signing? I'm not saying he doesn't want the player, but it's just such an open goal to throw him in, isn't it? We're crying out for a player like this in the midfield. So yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see how that pans out. I'd rather put 200k and 11 million towards Xavi or Zubimendi, says the Duke, but you can't do that till the summer. Rashi is a big show-off. He can prove himself by putting the ball into the back of the net, by not getting into defenders and losing the ball, but he wants to be Mike Tyson, says Sue. Okay, fine with that. Well, there's a little lad who's going to get his shirt, isn't he? Or dedicated goal when Rashford scores next. He's been very active. As I said, I'm not going to knock it. He's sort of setting himself up for a goal, isn't he? I think that Rashford's done a lot of talking off the pitch on the international break. He didn't need to do that. Didn't need to do his little video clips and stuff, and he has done it. So, as I said a few days ago, I'm hopeful that this is a sign of confidence and arrogance, in a sense that I'm ready to deliver. So he's obviously going to pick him on tomorrow, isn't he? So hopefully he's thinking Southampton not that good, Rashford reborn. So yeah, hopefully it will happen. Apparently there was a lad called Grayson who Rashford has said if his next goal he's going to dedicate to him, and I knew instantly what the comments were going to say, because I think this kid's like a school kid, and people were like, yeah, he's going to be waiting until he retires for that, or graduation, etc. I think I saw somebody doing the Titanic meme, where she goes, "It's been 84 years." It won't be. I think he might score. I've got a feeling he'll score tomorrow. I've got a feeling Rashford thinks he's going to score tomorrow as well. Anyway, moving on. Another story coming out is around Barada. So apparently Barada logically he would be anyway. I mean, it's not illogical. But the story basically says that it was Barada who put the brakes on the Jared Branthwaite transfer. Remember at the time, it was a very funny transfer, the Branthwaite one, because we agreed personal terms with him, which means there was an openness to come to the club. And there was very good leaks coming out of Everton that Everton were very happy to put out there, because I think they came from David Ornstein. And basically, I think it did come from David Ornstein, so you knew it was coming from the club. And what Everton were saying is, we want £80 million because look at Vardiel last summer. Look at Maguire, 80. Look at Fofana, 80. And that was coming from Everton. And basically, this report says that Barada's response to that was basically, Vardiel was an exception. You know, for one, he's signing for Manchester City, who can afford to spend that sort of money. And two, he also had Champions League experience in multiple years for Leipzig, and Branthwaite didn't. And basically, Barada was like, we will pay 50. We may even go to 60 with add-ons, but we will not be doing anything else other than that. And Everton wouldn't shift. So it was, see you later. And it was Barada who led that. But that's his job. You know, that is his job. I'm very pleased by that update. It's very, very encouraging. And we've spoken multiple times on this channel of the requirement and need to walk away from some deals in the initial stages to show that we've got a backbone in the future. So I think the Branthwaite deal probably doesn't help Branthwaite, but certainly helps us. Let's not forget as well about Branthwaite. Is he not injured at the moment? So even if we'd bought him, would this injury still be there? Yes. Nobody really talks about that. I don't think Branthwaite's hardly played for Everton this season as well. So I think with regards to that, very, very encouraging. But this is what the job is for Omar Barada. This is what Manchester United need to do on future deals. And it feeds nicely into the Rabiot deal as well, because Arnold and Woodward would be the guys writing the checks for all the bad deals we've done. Not doing the Branthwaite deal is very correct, I think, in most of our opinions, but this Rabiot deal, these are the big bucks decisions. These are the decisions that Ineos are going to figure out. You know, getting hold of 28% of Manchester United. No, I'm not going to do Sir Jim Radcliffe this morning. You know, getting hold of 28% of Man United is not. It's not a golden ticket. It's every single day there will be something coming up, and you will be judged on it as well. And if Rabiot does go and sign for Arsenal and plays really, really well, they will be criticised. They will be like, you could have done this deal. He was offered to you. You could have done this deal. Relatively speaking, it's cheap to get Rabiot for 160 grand a week and a £10 million signing on fee. It's cheap. It is cheap. That's a very cheap deal to get a player of that quality for that price on that wage. It's a cheap deal. There's no doubt about it. The only reason we might be switched off from it is because we don't have the money. And if he does go to an Arsenal or a Liverpool and does really well, then people will be going, we dropped the ball on that one. We should have done it. And remember, I think it's important to say that Art says 10 million is too much, Mark. I really don't think it is, mate. You don't want to pay the 10 million. I understand that, but contextually, 10 million pounds for Adrien Rabiot is nothing. It's literally nothing. Like, it really isn't a lot of money. But also consider this: what if what do you think Eric Ten Hag thinks about this? Because I'll tell you what Eric Ten Hag thinks. He's like, get me Rabiot. Because every manager in the world is going to go something or nothing. I'll take the something. So I don't think there's any dispute that an Arne Slot or an Arteta or a Ten Hag wouldn't want Rabiot. It's just whether those clubs want to do that type of a deal. And that would be the interesting thing, because yeah, I don't see. And also, let's not forget, the last two summers, not this one, but the previous one a year ago and the one before that, we actually legitimately tried to get Rabiot as well, didn't we? So, Olu says, there are rumours that Angel Gomes will be a free agent by the end of the season and he's open to coming back to United. Do you think we can give him a pre-contract in January? We have spoken about this for the last couple of days, Ola, and he is a free agent in the summer because his contract is up. Man United might bring him back. My stance on it is it's just a bit too sentimental. I don't massively understand what he was doing in the England squad, to be honest with you. I didn't. That really did surprise me, and he did very, very well. But I can't say that Angel Gomes has been a player that I've been talking about for the last 2 years as solving our midfield problems. I don't think I've even mentioned it in the last 2 years. So the fact that he played well against Finland just doesn't fit the criteria of me going, bring him back. Like, I've got to see a hell of a lot more than that. A hell of a lot more than that. Solo says, what the fuck, he's great in my opinion. No, I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad player. What I'm saying is I was stunned when he ended up in the England squad because it's just not been on the radar. And he did very, very well. But I can't sit here and say Angel Gomes needs to come back to Man United and he'll solve our midfield problems. I just don't have that opinion at the moment. It's just too much of an uncertainty. I have to see a lot more, and that lot more is going to have to be, dare I say it, in a Lille shirt, because I can't judge him playing for England against shit in one of the best squads in the world. So yeah, I can't sit here and say let's bring Angel Gomes back, because it just sounds ridiculously flippant and without evidence at the moment. So it might be one to keep an eye on though, especially when he's a free transfer, because we've just spent the last 20 minutes talking about Rabiot in that sense. Ezzy says, signing Rabiot solidified our midfield, and yes, I'm in for it, says Ezzy. Rashford thing is going to make him shoot every time, says Liam. Well, he hasn't had a shot on goal yet, mate. So, you know, what we've had 3 posts on social media in the last 6 days. He's not hit the post once in an actual pitch. Well, he can't hit the post on the pitch, can he? Because he's not had any shots. So, yeah, he's having a few shots probably wouldn't be a bad idea for Marcus Rashford tomorrow. I'm sure, surely he'll get a shot off against Southampton. Surely. You can't score without shooting, says Eman. Exactly. Under Southgate, he wouldn't have. Those England games were more entertaining than the whole of the Euros, says Galvatron. Well, we're definitely not here to talk about England. I'm glad that the international break is dead for a month. TK says Rabiot would be a decent short-term solution to the midfield shortage. Mount is injury-prone, Casemiro is done, and Mainu needs to rest at times. 115 has become 130 mark. You didn't read my super chat about it. I didn't know whether that's true or not. I thought you might have been joking. So there we go. DK says, I thought people wanted Rashford to shoot less last year. DK, don't judge people by your own intelligence level, because I did a video on That's Football a couple of days ago where I said the death of the worldie, because comparable to 2006, the volume of goals that are scored from outside the box used to be about 23%. It's now 12%. So the reduction in goals being scored from outside the box is massive. And I was basically saying in the video, look, I want to see more individualistic goals. I want to see more worldies. Well, somebody obviously watched the United stand went, yeah, but you're always moaning about United shooting from outside the box. And I was like, zero correlation here. Why do I even need to explain this? But then I remember that, you know, some people are lower down when it comes to intelligence. So I want to see more goals from outside the box. I want to see more worldies from Man United. But that's not me encouraging people to shoot from outside the box who are shit at it. That's not the message. I want to see more goals from outside the box in football in general. But that's not a free ticket to everybody to shoot, because that would be fucking horrible. What I want to see is better players being allowed to shoot from outside the box more, because we've seen it with United. We've seen a lot of shots from outside the box that are shit. I'm not asking Harry Maguire to run forward 50 yards and shoot every game. What I'm talking about is that we're not seeing shots from outside the box scored in general, because a lot of teams, like Pep's teams, do it quite a lot, but it's the quality players that you want to see doing it, and I don't think they do it as much. We shoot from outside the box a lot. I mean, fucking hell, Anthony, he doesn't need a ticket, does he? He'll bloody shoot from the halfway line. And yeah, it's the quality that needs to be there with it. But Rashford's got the quality. I mean, that goal against Man City last season was very good, wasn't it? So yeah, I don't know whether we've got anybody that's good that is that good at shooting from outside the box anyway. I mean, Rashford, when he's on it, can do it. But Bruno's capable of doing it. Anthony's a bit of a one-trick pony. It's always the curler, isn't it? Yeah, interesting. Delo's got a lovely shot, actually. That's a good shout. Delo has got a lovely shot, and he's worked on it a lot. Very, very good shot. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for tuning in. You're absolute legends, of course. Don't forget, we are live in the Goldbridge Arms at midday for a Premier League review. Preview, not a review, that's on a Monday. Preview, Premier League preview. We'll be featuring Man United Southampton in that. Obviously, it's the North London derby. Some explosive comments from Ronaldo, which I actually enjoyed. Lots to discuss in the Goldbridge Arms live at 12. If you're free, come and join us for lunch. Been away for a while, says Sean Turner, so not sure if it's been spoken about, but Højlund injuries since joining us is very concerning for a young player. Martial number 2 incoming. Yeah, look, Sean, I don't want to talk about it. Of course, I don't. But he's been here a year and he's had a few injuries. I do worry a little bit though that you might be right about the Martial reference, because how much did we have to play Rasmus last season because we didn't have another striker? And that's the problem. Is how if you overplay a player when they're young, then you can damage their development. And this is something we need to be very careful of with Mainu as well. So, it's a fair point by Sean. Someone in the chat says, what about Mojo? We don't know where Mojo is. 2 weeks. I don't think we've had a Mojo comment in the chat, whether it be a super chat or a live chat, since he went to watch Man United play against Liverpool. So yeah, we are sort of trying to keep an eye out for Mojo. So if anyone spots him in the comments after a video or whatever, let's draw attention to it. Hi Mark, I'm visiting Manchester next week. Do you have any restaurant and pub recommendations? I think there are plenty of lovely pubs in Manchester city centre, but I quite like, as a restaurant / bar, I always get the name of it wrong. What's it called? Nando's? No. Australia. Or Australasia, something like that. I think it's on Deansgate. It's quite nice. Quite nice. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Where's Mojo? Yeah, Mojo. Mojo will get his mojo back sometime, I suppose. Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you at midday on the Goldbridge Arms on That's Football. Speak to you later.